Many asset classes, sectors and industries are investable. Today, as a part of our summer interviews, we want to look at a very specific topic, investing in fish. With me is Marco Berweger, Managing Director of Bonafide Wealth Management. Nice to have you here. I have to clarify one thing right at the beginning, Mr. Berweger. You come from beautiful Liechtenstein, a landlocked country surrounded by landlocked countries, and you want to talk about fish and seafood. How does that fit together?
Yeah, Mr. Franik, nice to be here. That's a good question we often ask in our daily life. Our founder, Chris Baldecker, is a hobby fisherman. So since he's a little boy, fish is his passion, and so with his professional experience in the investment banking industry and his knowledge about the fish, he started the Bonafide Global Fish Fund over 10 years ago, and now 10 years later it's a success story, I think.
Where do you get your know-how from? Do you also have a few fishermen on the investment committee?
Yeah, as I told you before, Chris Baldecker, our founder, is a fisherman, and he has his own fish farming license in Switzerland, so his knowledge is very good. And on the other hand, we are in the industry for over 10 years. We grew with the companies together, and so you gather a lot of information and knowledge from them, and we love to share this knowledge to our new employees. And everyone in the interview asks, I don't know anything about fish, then I tell them I do not know anything like you in my interview, but now some years later I think I know quite well the fish and seafood industry and the biological about fishing and fish.
Your main topic is the so-called blue economy. What makes fish so exciting for you?
Yeah, I think the blue economy is everything related to the ocean which is sustainable, so excluding oil and some topics. And fish is very interesting because we talk a lot about how we will feed our population in some years because of the growing population, then the resource intensity and some new ways to feed our people on Earth. And I think fish is very attractive thing because it's very efficient to farm. So when you give a salmon, for example, 1.2 kilo of feed, he grew 1 kilogram, and a beef, as example, needs 7 or 8 times more feed to grow. So it's very efficient, and when you do it right, it's also very sustainable, I think.
You invest along the entire value chain in seafood sector. What does this look like in concrete terms?
Yeah, many people think it's only the salmon in Norway which is investable, but that's not true. We invest in the whole industry, so there are the feeding companies which develop the feed for the fish. It was revolutionized over the past years. The fish nowadays, the salmon is now a vegetable, and also some processes after you catch the fish from the fish farming, then you take away the fillet and everything else. Some years ago you put back in the ocean, what's not really sustainable. Nowadays there are companies, they use this waste from the fish to produce healthcare products for human consumption, and also some other companies which sell the fish to the end consumer, like a sushi restaurant in Japan or so on.
Do you have an interesting company for better understanding of this?
Yeah, I talked about the use of the waste of the fish. So the example is Hafse Biocare from Norway, a small company, but they take this waste from the fish, the bones, the heads, etc., and produce some calcium tablets, also some fish oil products, and they are developing even more for the medicine nowadays. So it's very interesting, but a small company and a young company.
Let's summarize. On the one hand, we see an increasing demand of fish. On the other hand, there are increasing problems with overfishing and pollution of the seas. As a sustainable investor, how do you resolve this?
Yeah, that's a very important topic on our side because we want to increase the sustainable efforts in our whole industry. And so some years back we hired a sustainability expert which has the time in day-to-day work to talk to the companies, to talk to the industry, and also some labels like MSC or ASC which are well known to further develop the whole industry. And on the other hand, the companies themselves, they want to grow their business, they want to pass them to the next generation, and so they are very dependent to do the things right, to do the things in a sustainable term, so that fish farming in 20 or 30 years is still possible.
In everything you do to protect the oceans, Mr. Berweger, you go a few steps further and are involved in many sustainability associations. What are you doing there exactly?
Yeah, it a little bit depends on the hot topics at the moment. But as example, in the UN Blue Finance Initiative, we were there 10 years ago. No one talked about the oceans, no one talked about how to develop fish farming further in some poorer country. And there we have our knowledge and willing to share them with some other peoples and also the governments of this world to protect the seas, and also is it in this way possible to have a good future for these fish farming regions on the coastline, because there you do not have many businesses and fish farming is one of the most important industries, so we must protect their labor force there as well. And in others, we try to speak to the companies with other protein producers to have some impact on the feeding ingredients, per example, or in our industry, in many feeds there is soya. And soya is a little bit problematic because of the forest. And so we try to make a little impact there to make the whole industry a little bit more sustainable.
Finally, I found many nice testimonials and quotes on the subject of the blue economy during my research. What's your favorite one?
That's a good question. There are a lot of quotes in our industry. Fishing is one of the oldest industry of our times. So I think one of my favorite is, give a man a fish and you feed him for 1 day. Learn a man how to fish and you feed him for his entire life.
Very nice finish of our interview. Thank you very much for being here, Mr. Berweger. All the best for you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Franik.